China continues to explore ways to exert its influence within the United States, and the prospects for peace in Europe between Russia and Ukraine seem increasingly remote. Joining me to discuss all of this, attorney, author, and foreign policy expert Gordon Chang. Gordon, thanks for being here. In recent years, China and the CCP have purchased land in the United States. We've talked about this before. Hundreds of thousands of acres of American farmland have been acquired by shell companies on behalf of Chinese entities. Additionally, the CCP has posed a threat to military bases in the U.S., purchasing land nearby or proximate, attempting to buy these properties. For example, in 2022, a Chinese company purchased 300 acres just 12 miles from the Grand Forks Air Force Base in North Dakota. One U.S. Air Force officer warned that the prospect posed a costly national security risk, and local officials ultimately shut it down. Gordon, what's the latest on this land situation now? I mean, just this week we heard of Chinese investors and companies buying up land in New Hampshire. And we know the well-documented stories of China purchasing farmland in Texas. Why would the government allow this to go on, the U.S. government, and do nothing to reverse some or all of these purchases?
Well, we think we're a society of peace, Raymond, and so therefore we don't impose these restrictions on an enemy. And China calls us an enemy, so we should think of them in the same terms. Now, we know that these Chinese purchases of land, there are a number of reasons for them. You know, at its most innocent level, there are people who just want to live in a free society, and they're buying a place where they can live. But with these large purchases of farmland and ranch land, there are many very suspicious activities going on. So, for instance, there was the Grand Forks Air Force Base issue that you mentioned. And we see that across the country where Chinese parties are buying land near military facilities. But we're also seeing criminal activities on land, especially in places like Oklahoma and Maine, the illegal marijuana grows that bring in the Chinese gangs, that bring in murders. And in Oklahoma, there's also these stories about China basing human trafficking operations on farmland. So there are many things that we need to look at.
Yeah. In some good news, President Trump recently unveiled the National Farm Security Action Plan, which ultimately will defend U.S. farmland and U.S. sovereignty against this encroachment by the CCP. Gordon, I guess it's better late than never, but has the damage already been done?
Well, the damage has been done. And yes, we will need to not only prohibit Chinese purchases of farm and ranch land, but we also need to take back land that the Chinese have already acquired. So this is going to be difficult for us. Some of it's going to require expropriation, which means compensation. But also we should be applying federal forfeiture acts, which allow us to take land that's been used in the commission of a crime and not pay compensation. But ultimately, we know that no American can own land in China, not even a square inch. So why are we allowing the Chinese to own hundreds, thousands of square miles of our farm and ranch land here?
Yeah. It does make you scratch your head. I mean, for years, we didn't do any business with Russia during the Cold War, yet we freely trade and allow China to run roughshod, even buying land purchases in the United States, when they're clearly, as you said earlier, they consider us an enemy. It is mind-boggling. On Monday, Donald Trump said he wants to open denuclearization talks with Russia and China. Speaking to reporters ahead of that meeting with the president of South Korea, Trump said this: "I think the denuclearization is it's a big aim, but Russia is willing to do it, and I think China is going to be willing to do it too. We can't let nuclear weapons proliferate. We have to stop nuclear weapons. The power is too great." Gordon, your thoughts on the president's remarks there?
Well, these remarks sort of are really a product of his belief that there should be peace in this world. Now, our main arms limitation agreement with Russia expires in February of next year, the New START treaty. And after that, there's nothing. You know, I'm not so sure that we are going to see China actually be open to arms control talks. As a matter of fact, the Chinese Foreign Ministry yesterday said it wouldn't talk with us about it. And that is consistent with China's posture on arms control discussions, which we have seen over the last several years. They just will not talk to us about it. And there's a lot of reasons why for their position.
U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff said on Tuesday that he will meet with representatives from Ukraine in New York, while saying that Washington continues to talk to Russia. As you know, the president wants to end this battle between Russia and Ukraine, but Russia is pushing deeper into Ukrainian territory. Do you see an end to this conflict? And was that summit with Putin in Alaska kind of a bust?
Well, you know, this is Trump foreign policy, and we won't know whether it was a bust or not until we see the end of the process. But the problem is that Putin is continuing to kill civilians in Ukraine as a matter of deliberate policy, as we see all these attacks on Kyiv and other cities. And this war will only end, I believe, until we won't end until we cut off all flows of money to Russia. We need to starve the Russian war machine. Until we do that, Putin's going to keep on killing.
Before we go, Gordon, we've covered this story for many years. We had Sebastian Lai on the show last week talking about his father, Jimmy Lai's incarceration and trial. Well, this week, the judges in that trial have reached, or are retiring rather, to reach a verdict on these 3 national security charges that Jimmy faces. That could see the 77-year-old pro-democracy and devout Catholic jailed for life. Based on what you've seen so far, how do you expect these judges to rule?
They're going to find him guilty on all 3 charges. This is a verdict that is mandated by not only Beijing, but also by John Lee, who's the chief executive of Hong Kong. It's in China's interest, and it's actually in Hong Kong's interest, to get Jimmy out of custody even after a conviction. Because if he dies in custody, he becomes even more of a martyr than he is right now. And that's a problem that Beijing will not be able to solve. So it's in their interest to free him under some sort of medical parole or some humanitarian gesture.
Yeah, I was amazed last week when Sebastian Lai said the Vatican hadn't reached out to him and that they weren't. Well, I mean, we hear very little from the Vatican on this Jimmy Lai trial. I mean, this is a Catholic layman, a very prominent one, a convert who is languishing in a Chinese prison, partially because of his faith, which is motivating him to stand up for the freedom of people, not only the freedom of their bodies, but the freedom of their souls and spirits. I'll give you the last word.
Oh, that's absolutely right. The Vatican's posture on this has been shameful, and that mirrors some pretty shameful activity. Posture being by London, because remember, Jimmy Lai is a British citizen. And it's great that President Trump mentioned Jimmy's case. And I believe that President Trump is going to work to free Jimmy at some point. This is really important for us to keep the pressure on.
You bet. Gordon Chang, thank you as always for being here. For the latest reports and analysis from Gordon, you can follow him on X at Gordon G. Chang. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Raymond.